Welcome to The Creative Flight, the podcast that is going to take you on this private jet, which is a journey either to the past, to the present, or we can go to the future. So today I have Marley Jaxx on the podcast. She has done incredible things that I'm really interested in digging deep about. Something around the docu-stunt, which I want to dig deeper into a lot of. She's also on YouTube. You'll be familiar with her work and her name. But today I want to talk not just business, but also a little bit more about the person behind the business. Marley, to the world who doesn't know you, how would you describe yourself?
How would I describe myself? Eccentric, creative. I'm an entrepreneur and I'm pretty obsessed with creativity and connecting really cool people to do cool things.
How did you fall into the business that you have right now?
Totally by accident. I was a dental hygienist and I was very bored of cleaning teeth. And I even knew when I was going into dental that it wasn't going to be a long-term thing. It was like let me do this while I figure out what I really want to be when I grow up. But even before that, I was always in roles that had to do with entertainment. I worked in radio and television. I worked in event management. And so I was very much on social media a lot for those roles. So when I was a dental hygienist and bored of cleaning teeth, between patients, I would do the social media's dental office, or the other way around, the dental office's social media. Wow, that was a twist. And it was my kind of gateway into learning how to be a content creator and then learning that I could do that for other businesses, that I just thought that I was having fun playing on social media. But it turned out that the content that I was just having fun making brought clients in the door. And then I was like, I wonder if I can do this more often and on purpose. And so then I started taking on more clients and then started being flown across the USA to film content for my clients and create their content. And just grew into the agency and the consulting that I have today.
Amazing. And what kind of clients do you normally work with?
We work with a lot of coaches, service providers, real estate, network marketing, a lot of doctors. I was surprised that we get a lot of doctors and healthcare providers, especially they have such a strong expertise and it's something that people are very much looking for online. So that's been a surprising but also easy client to be able to make successful.
Do you think you landed those, or are they attracted to you because of your past in dental hygiene?
No, I don't use that as my I mean, I talk about it for sure, but I don't think that I've led with that very often. So yeah, when we have conversations and I say, oh, I used to be a hygienist, they're always surprised. Like, what? Because of course, like dental hygiene to content creator, business owner, it's not a linear path. Like, oh yeah, logically, you just went from cleaning teeth to building YouTube channels.
How big is your team? Do you have a lot of people working with you?
Yeah, we have, I would say like 4 full-time, someone in sales, someone in marketing, someone in operations, and then a coach that supports with fulfillment. I think there's really like five core functions in business: lead generation, lead nurture, lead conversion, fulfillment, and then resell, upsell. And so basically we have one person that is kind of in charge of each of those core functions.
I'm curious. A lot of the people who listen to this podcast, they're probably early stage entrepreneurs, maybe 2 or 3 years in. What was your first hire? Do you want to share how you made that decision? Because I find that really interesting.
Yeah, and I think that it's not a one size fits all solution, because for me, my first hire was a video editor, and very short after was a graphic designer, and might have even been the other way around, like pretty much at the same time. But for most people, I wouldn't say that that should be their first hire. I think that the way to decide what your first hire is by looking at what your day consists of and kind of organizing the tasks into what is tactical, what is strategic, what are things that I love to do and I'm good at, what are things that I don't like to do and I'm not good at, but someone else will be, or even the things that you are good at but isn't the best use of your time. Like, I could do accounting, but I really shouldn't, because what would take me 10 hours would take a professional 2, and they would be much more efficient at it, and I would know that it got done properly. I could do all my admin and emails and customer service, but there's someone that is like so much better at it and loves it, and part of her superpower is making people happy. And I want that person to do that role instead of me, where my mind is in other creative things where I can still serve people, make them happy, but in a different area. So yeah, my first hire was a video editor because I was making a lot of video content for myself and for my clients. And I think any entrepreneur that's creating content knows that video editing is like one of the most time consuming and sometimes the most frustrating things, that you can film a video, but then it takes you several hours to edit it. And it's, again, one of those things that you can hire out, and someone who is more skilled at it will do a much better job and be quicker. And even with video editing, it's one of those things that, you know, you can pay by the video. And let's say, like my first video editor, I paid $15 a video. In the time that it would take me to edit that video, I could probably make more than $15. And what I would outsource for $15, like that video would make me more than $15. So it's just one of those things to look at what is going to be the better use of your time, and then how are you going to be able to better monetize whatever that project is, or monetize the time you have available.
It really does sound like it's a time factor that you're looking at, but also hiring the skills that are beyond you. Like, who is better at this than myself? And I find a lot of people forget to look at that, and rather they put themselves on the organizational chart right on top and say, like, we'll do everything, and then we'll get the minions below to do the things that, you know, just to, and I'm like, no, get people better than you.
Yes.
And their ego, I find their ego gets in the way. They're like, no, I want to do this myself and I can do it better myself. And I'm like, well, find someone who can do it better than you and get it done better and faster.
Yeah. The other day I found myself going back into some video editing. I was like, oh, I'll just do it. It'll just be really quick. But it was not. And it might have felt good for me to feel creative, that I was doing some video editing and I enjoyed it. But at the end of editing that video, I was like, there are much more higher leverage things on my task list that I just spent 2 hours doing that. And that wasn't, even though it felt good, wasn't the best use of my time. Not to say that you can't just like do things for the sake of doing them because you enjoy them. But yeah, it was just an eye opener to me that I was like, it would have taken me 2 seconds to just send the link to an editor and I could have had it back and finished the other thing.
I'm so compelled to ask, what might you have done instead of doing the video? Is there something that you were avoiding?
Well, I have a lot of copy work on me right now, and I do enjoy writing copy, but it's also one of those things that you have to get into that like copywriting state of mind to do it. And because I've had a lot of copy work, it definitely was a brain break to just edit. I shouldn't judge myself too harshly because it was still a good video and the copy work will still be there for me. I was just talking to my boyfriend about this yesterday. Like, if I don't hit the deadline, my self-imposed deadline, the work will still be there tomorrow.
It always is.
It always is. And then more.
And then more. You mentioned your boyfriend. When you and I met, we talked about children as well. So you've got kids. Are you okay talking about your kids?
Yeah, for sure. They're actually his kids. So okay. I am stepmom, and yeah, we've been together for 4 years, and they, from the beginning, like I read all the books of step parenting and blended families. I don't have my own children, just through him, but I claim them as my own. I don't even hesitate in identifying stepchildren. Like they got my soul's DNA. And when I first met them, I read all the books to over-prepare for, like, assuming the things you see on TV, like, you're not my mom, or having to overcome the evil stepmother stigma. And none of that ever happened. Like, from the first day I met them, they were like, are you going to marry our dad? Can we call you mom? Like, whoa. So I got
That's amazing.
Lucky. I got very lucky.
Such acceptance. I wanted to ask you how you manage your time, because even with kids and then personal life and then business and then the house and then I don't know if you've got pets, maybe pets.
I don't have pets. I sometimes we go to the pet store and we look at them, or we look at, you know, the cute videos on TikTok of the silly puppies, and they're so adorable. But that's one thing that I think that would my cup would runneth over. But yeah, I think I manage my time. I mean, definitely not perfect, and I'm always. I love productivity and biohacking and all the cool things that, you know, teach you how to be more efficient. And I think that I just have different phases. Because if someone asks, what's your morning routine? I'm like, I don't know, it's different this week than it is last week. I don't have like the exact same thing. And I think more women would be able to understand this. My routine changes depending on where I'm at in my cycle. And sometimes I have more energy, and sometimes I am less energetic but more introspective, so I'm like productive in different ways. So I would say that like there's non-negotiable things that I have in my day. For me, writing is an important part for me. Like, I'm a very verbal processor. I know we've talked about human design, and like I'm a mental projector, so I am someone that I kind of need to talk things out for me to understand it. And so talking, like, I will actually turn on a recorder and go for a walk, and I will talk to myself, and then might read through the transcript, or just write, because that's another way of just processing. So that's like something that I feel like I really need. And if I don't do that, I feel it. Like, my day is different if I don't take the time to have that space. And then I kind of just have like my productivity non-negotiables. Like, I will do 5 outreach a day to potential clients, leads, people that might be good opportunities for JVs or just networking. I write a social media post a day. They don't always happen at the same time, but like those are the things that I feel like if I didn't get my to-do list done, if I did some outreach, if I wrote a post, I feel like I had a good day.
That sounds so achievable, which feels
Yeah.
like that seems like the lesson here. Make it achievable so that you feel good at the end of your day. You said something that I really liked, and it was you will record your voice note and then flip through the transcript. And I thought that was genius. I've never considered that even.
That's a huge hack for my life. And there's 2 different apps that I've used to do that. One is called Day One, and it's like a journaling app. And so that one will do a recording. The only thing with that one is it only does in like 5-minute voice messages. So if I talk longer than 5 minutes, it just has to be broken up into multiple, or Otter. And Otter will just go for hours. So I even have voice messages on Otter that are several hours long. I would say 2 to 3 hours max. And it's so cool that it transcribes in real time. So I could even be mid-thought and be like, wait, what was that thing that I just said? And I can scroll up. And that's how I create content. That's how I work through a problem. If I'm, stuck on what do I do? And I know it's great to have like people around you that are your peers or, loved ones that you can bounce ideas off of. But sometimes I am my own best advisor in that sense. And it feels like I'm having a conversation with like my higher self and my subconscious at the same time to help me with what's the best solution.
Just for the audience, just so that they can really understand what we're talking about a little bit here with the mental projector. Projector is one of the human design types. So if you're not familiar with that, I'll put some additional notes in the show notes. And then the decision-making authority that Marley has is exactly the same that my husband has, which is only 2% of the population, which is the mental projector.
2%? I didn't know that.
It's 2% of the decision-making. So there are others that sound like they are verbal processors, but it's different for the self-projected, projective sounds. They also need to speak out loud, but not for the same purpose. The environment also matters in the mental projector. So sometimes you need to be in the environment to actually make your decisions. And I wonder if that's why the walk, if you're walking and talking, maybe that is even more beneficial for you. But I'm totally going to tell my husband to do this because he is a walker and writer, so he will walk and write.
At the same time? I feel like I'm not coordinated enough to do that.
He'll be on his phone or in his notebook and he'll be taking notes. And he speeds up as he thinks, which is so funny. Whereas I slow down. The moment I start thinking, I slow down.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, he's off thinking again because he's 6 foot and you've met me, I'm 5'1". So there's a huge difference.
That's a big height difference.
Yeah. So he's like speeding off and I'm like, oh, okay, there he goes in his thoughts again. But yeah.
Funny.
I will definitely recommend that to him. I want to segue into docu-stunt because I'm completely fascinated. When I heard you on the talk at AdCon, I was like, oh, I love this. This is amazing. Can you talk a little bit more about what you did and also what you may be planning in the future?
Last year, we made a documentary, and the documentary was on cancel culture. But not only was it a documentary where we just like talked about the topic of cancel culture, it was also a social experiment. It was a challenge to get myself canceled in 7 days. And spoiler alert, it worked. And you can go to my YouTube channel to watch it. Just look up Marley Jaxx and my channel there. Look up the video is called I Got Canceled and I Did It to Myself. And it's won awards at film festivals. It's recently been submitted for an Emmy, and never saw that. Like, that was not my intention when I created it. When I created it was mostly to speak to, so what I do in business, with helping people to create content on YouTube, we've kind of coined this term of disruptive content. And by disruptive, meaning it gets attention. And disruptive doesn't have to mean aggressive or offensive, but it's, and think of anyone that you follow that you didn't follow before. They had to do something that disrupted the timeline to be able to show up in front of you and grab your attention. And disruptive can also just mean like speaking to emotions, which that could be humor, it could be heartfelt, it could be sad, anger, any of those. But the feedback that I was getting from people was like, well, I don't want to be disruptive because I don't want to get canceled, which then of course I respond with like, that doesn't mean that you have to be offensive, but I get that people, there's this fear of stepping out, especially with the society we live in right now, and cancel culture being on the rise, that you're like one opinion away from being vilified or venerated. And so I wanted to make a documentary to speak to cancel culture. And then what kind of raised the stakes even more was to be an example of, well, what would happen if I did get canceled? Or what would happen if I did put myself in a position where the whole world is talking about me? And I say the whole world, but like my community, my corner of the internet. And so, yeah, it was a social experiment. And I don't want to give it away because there's like, if you watch it, there's a really big plot twist at the end. But when you do watch it, just know that it's real. It's everything that you see happened live, and there's an audience of people that experienced it live. And then there's also the audience that watches it and experiences it in the future. But both of them had a huge plot twist, whether you saw it live or you're watching the replay. What was really cool was when we it was in some film festivals. And so one of them was the Manhattan, like New York Film Festival. And it was cool. Like, it's one thing to have content on the internet that, starts to accumulate views and comments, but it was cool to be at a theater watching people watch it. I've never experienced that before. It was so incredible. And the plot twist at the end had the audience roaring, like, what just happened? So I hope I say that to leave a little bit of teasers and open loops that people will go watch it.
I'll link it so they will.
And we called it a docu-stunt because it was, like I said, a documentary publicity stunt.
But it sounds like you will do more of these.
Yeah, we have some ideas. We actually have a few that are like mid-production, that also have some fun plot twists to them. My only problem is I'm self-funding them, and it's quite expensive to create documentaries. So that first one, the cancel culture documentary, took us 4 months and near 6 figures. And I can certainly create them lower budget, but yeah, just the ideas that we have kind of require a bigger budget. And we've talked about, like, do we get investors? Do we pitch it to a network kind of thing? And yeah, I'm definitely open to that.
Have you had any talks that are exciting? Are we watching the space?
I have talked to a few people and kind of like planted the seeds, but I haven't pursued it enough yet. But it's definitely something in the back of my mind, but it hasn't been the priority thing with some other projects that I'm working on just with business and clients.
It was a social experiment, and I don't want you to give away anything either, but are you able to speak to the impact that it might have had?
Yeah. Well, anytime someone gets canceled in the news, my video gets more views. So it gets a big boost of viewership, which is great for my channel. But yeah, like creating that content, people are still talking about it. I mean, when's the last time that I've made a marketing video about how to XYZ that people are still talking about years later? Like, that disruptive content is what creates a movement. And there are certainly people that did not like it. Like, when it first came out, it was controversial. Of course, speaking about something that is controversial, we're already riding a wave of noise that people have opinions around. And because it was an experiment to get myself canceled, there's definitely opinions around that. Why would you do that? Did you lie to people? What happened? Why did you manipulate people? But what people have seen, and some of the feedback that we've gotten since it came out was, yes, there are people that didn't like it because we're stepping into dangerous territory. But then also when you actually watch the documentary and you see that, I mean, we reveal that stuff like this happens in the news, in the media all the time, that the media is constantly pulling the wool over our eyes. We just pulled back the curtain to show you how we did it and how they're doing it. And so this can either arm you with knowledge to protect yourself from it, and also arm you with knowledge to ethically market to your audience. And I say market, but I could have also replaced that with manipulation. Marketing is, in a sense, a manipulation, because we are manipulating, persuading our audience to feel a certain way about a product or a belief or a culture. And the hope is that we have good people that are using those powers for good. Sometimes there are not. There are scammers out there that will prey on people's emotions to make money to only their benefit. And good business owners and entrepreneurs and marketers are the ones that they are willing to take a stand and willing to be polarizing and also willing to be disliked, but for a good cause. I mean, look at people throughout history that you could consider as disruptive characters. Jesus, Mother Teresa, Gandhi, they had haters, okay? And centuries, decades, however long later, they are memorable and they have made an incredible impact that lasts long beyond their time here.
Kind of brings me to my next question, which is, what is the bigger mission? Is there something that you have within your business that you're like, okay, this is something that I believe in, that I want to really further?
I have this kind of mission statement: build the people that build the businesses that change the world. Like, yes, I'm helping people to create content and helping people to make more money in their businesses, but overall, how is that going to change the individual as a person? Like, will you be a better mother because of the business that you get to build, and then as a result be able to raise children that are also going to continue to put good into the world? Is that creative expression that you finally feel that you have permission to create, and is like from the depths and the core and from source, something that is going to create a ripple effect for other people, and then for the individual that has that permission to create at that level, what baggage or trauma are they able to let go of to be able to create more? So like, I actually haven't really publicly talked about that enough, but that's kind of what I think about when I'm working with people, is like how this is changing them on an individual level, and then the ripple effect of that. Because if a business makes $1 million, cool, but who are the people that created that, and then the change of the people that it touches?
And when we look at it as a ripple effect, that's how we can actually make the impact. It's one individual at a time.
Yes, to change your family, your community, and the world. Like, if I can just get my little corner, my little piece right, I used to think like, change the world, that's so overwhelming. Like, I'm just one little me, but you can, by just getting your little piece of it right. Like, if I think of it like a puzzle piece, and there's all these infinite pieces, and what I do in my little piece can change one that I will never even know the name of.
It's a big burden to think about the world, because when I started doing my business, I think that there's a huge problem in the educational system. And I was thinking exactly like you. I can't change the educational system. It's the educational system that is making the creatives feel undervalued, because they don't value any type of creativity, no arts, no music, no dance. That doesn't continue as a compulsory subject up in the later years. And I was thinking the same, like, how am I supposed to impact? Like, this is too big a question. But if I can do my bit, if I can help one individual, and that ripple effect, just the way that you said it, I think that's the way we make impact. I like the way you put that really nicely.
Yeah, that makes me think. I have a friend that he started a program in his son's school that dads come for lunch, and dads come to visit in the middle of the day and have lunch with their kids, and then also play on the playground for a little bit. And think about the ripple effect of that, of having more father figures and dad time for these kids. Like, it's a small but massive effort.
I totally see that. I'm Swedish, and in Sweden, we have, so for me, when you say that, I always think, gosh, I forget that the rest of the world don't have the same equality when it comes to parental leave. And
Right.
in Sweden, there's compulsory parental leave. I think you get like 200 days each or something like that. I can't recall. But you can shift it to the higher earner, but you cannot shift 3 months worth. Like 3 months has to be the dad. But
Mm.
you often see, I don't know if it's the same word in English, but latte mamas, do you say that in the US?
Mm.
Mamas who have lattes, essentially.
Okay.
Like the mums who are on maternity leave. But we have the latte papas who are
Oh,
the dads who go on and have coffee. So you see that quite a lot. So when you mention just that one effect of having your dads come to
yeah.
and play with the kids in the playground, like that's such a huge impact. Imagine I just feel like if we can just see how other countries are even doing small things differently, we can all grow from each other just by
Yeah.
learning and opening our eyes. When I watched your presentation or talk, I should say, you had a framework that was called Elsa, and it made me think, are you into
She's
Disney?
always a fan favorite.
So is Disney a predominant figure, or not figure, but like does
Yes, I feel like I have some Disney pictures behind me right now. I mean, I feel like for who isn't? Like I grew up just every single Disney movie. I could sing every song. I could, lip sync the lines to every princess movie, and it was just such a core part of my childhood, as I think it was for so many. And not just for the princess characters and the amazing stories, but I also just had the fascination with Walt, like the man who created the mouse and then the empire beyond that. And I love his story that he should have, I mean, he failed so many times. Like to the point where how did he keep going? Like he could have given up so many times. Like there was a point where before Mickey was Mortimer Mouse, or not, sorry, no, that was Mickey's, they almost named him. There was Lucky Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. And he created this Oswald character, and it got stolen from him. Like I think something with a contract, he accidentally signed something over that really the intellectual property belonged to another company, and then they also stole all of his animators. Like he lost everything. And then he was, on the train back after this defeat, and he created the mouse, which he originally named Mortimer, and then his wife said Mortimer sounds a little too stuffy. How about something like Mickey? And so it's like such evidence of someone who failed so many times. Like he was poor for the majority of his life and had to convince banks to please lend us this money for Snow White, and we promise it's going to be a hit. Like we have this vision. And animated movies, full length feature films were not a thing back then. So it's such a gamble for everyone. And then so cool to hear the story that when he did show a preview of Snow White to the banks, they said you can have as much money as you want. Like they saw the vision, they believed it. So this man who just had a dream, didn't give up despite so many failures, which I think also shows us that failure is a prerequisite to success. Because if he was successful overnight, I just, would it have been worth it? Would he have believed it? Would he have had the perseverance to keep going? If it was, it's almost like the success can give you perseverance. Or the failure can give you perseverance. If you have success too quickly, I wonder if I was talking to Steven about this, that he was saying that he has a client that she was successful on her first try, and she almost has this like looking over her shoulder of like, how long is this going to last? And do I deserve this? So interesting. But yeah, I've always loved Walt Disney's story and saw it as kind of a parallel for how I want to live my life.
what is your version of the failures that you have met?
I mean, I've been divorced, and it was the best thing that happened to me. At the time, the hardest thing, like near suicidal and devastated, and went to therapy 3 times a week crying over the same things with no end in sight. I didn't know how I was going to get out of it. I have gotten myself into a lot of debt in the business where I was like 6 figures in debt at one point and just bleeding money and had to fire everyone on my team and completely start from scratch. Again, best thing to happen to me, because then I learned how to, first of all, be able to create a business that is profitable and could get me out of that debt. Cancer. I had cancer and healing that naturally. I didn't go the traditional conventional route, and that made me feel so much more empowered to do something that kind of goes against the grain, but kind of made me feel more in control than the typical path. Yeah, I mean, I actually was on a podcast yesterday that we called these relaunches, where those times in your life where you kind of have to hit the reset button and start over. In the moment, it can feel like the hardest thing, but then on the other side of it, you're like, oh, that's why that was the best thing to ever happen to me. And one of the stories that I tell and has actually become a framework for my life is the first relationship that I had after my divorce. I was with this guy that he lived in Omaha, and I lived in Canada at the time. And in the middle of the pandemic, he, we hadn't even met in person yet, and was like, let's just be crazy. I could see us getting married. Why don't you come here to the States and let's be together, move in with me. I could see us getting married. And, at the time I was very naive and was like, this isn't a rebound, this is real love, and you do crazy things when you're in love. Meanwhile, like, the ink hadn't even dried for my divorce. Like, it was very fresh, and I was definitely coping. But at the time, I couldn't see it that way. But here I was like, this man is everything my ex-husband wasn't. I'm gonna get my love story. I'm gonna have my happily ever after. And much to my parents' extreme frustration, I jumped the border in the middle of the pandemic to go be with this man that I'd never met before. I can only imagine if my kids did this, I'd be like, what are you thinking? And it lasted a week.
Oh, wow.
And I was so crushed. I was so heartbroken. My best friend, who lives in Boise, where I live now, she said, come to Boise, come live with me. You can have my guest bedroom, no expiration date. You need a place to heal and to not be alone during the pandemic. And she had been saying that to me this whole time during the pandemic, saying, come live with me. And I was like, no, I don't want to impose. But I'm so grateful that happened in Omaha, so that it brought me to Boise. And also the pain that I was in from me internalizing his emotional unavailability as a reflection of my self-worth. It was so painful, but it brought me to therapy, which I'd never done therapy before in my life, but I was just in so much pain. I was like, I need help. I gotta get through this. And then because of being in Boise and because of that therapy, it led me to now Steven, the love of my life, that is beyond what I ever imagined for love, for a relationship. But funny, when he first started to pursue me, when we first started to, show interest and say that he wanted to date me, I was like, you're not my type. Because my type was narcissist, manipulator, cheater, abuser. He was too healthy. He was too nice. But after the therapy, I was like, oh, that's healthy? I've been attracted to a pattern of emotionally unavailable people. Oh, because of this experience that happened in my childhood, that I internalized that incorrectly, but that was just like the baggage that I didn't know I was carrying. So now when I look at the thread of all of that, I'm like, I'm so freaking grateful for Omaha. And now, if anything in my life seems to be going not according to plan and something that I thought that I really wanted, I just think to myself, maybe it's just Omaha. Maybe it's just what I really thought that I wanted, and when I didn't get it, it's because there was something better than I could have ever even imagined on the other side of it.
So at that point, Omaha, what is it that drives you to continue trying? Like, what is that drive? Have you been able to isolate that? Because when people fail, they feel like, what's the point? And I know this is more life situation, but let's apply it to business if we can, or whichever way it works. But like, what is that drive that keeps you going?
I mean, I think that, like, what other choice do you have? Like, are you just gonna lay down and die? I mean, if you're not growing, you're dying. And sure, take a break, heal. I mean, after Omaha, I was devastated, and like, I was certainly coping. I was drinking at that time, which is so weird to me now because I don't drink. That feels like a different lifetime. And, coping in busy work instead. And that just was also a distraction. But I think it's just like, I can't even imagine the alternative. Like, I can't imagine not getting up. Like if I think about, not that we want to think about the worst things that can happen in our lives, but you think about grieving a loved one, you think about the loss of a business, you think about, what if the rug is pulled out from under you? And of course that's terrifying and devastating, but then it's like, what are my options? Am I gonna let that be the end of me? I think it's just in our DNA that like we have to get back up again. I just haven't thought of any other option.
I don't think that is everyone. I think people think very differently. I mean, I'm not talking about life and death at this stage, but even like if we think about business, and what you're saying resonates. So if people ask me, when you started your business, were you not afraid of failure? And something that you're saying is, well, there is no other option. And that's pretty much what I didn't even consider the failure. And it sounds so dumb when I say it out loud. I didn't consider failure as an option because I would figure it out. Like, I will make it work. And I think people are different in the sense that if I think about other conversations that I've had around the same topic, I think when faced with an option of either leaving something in terms of business or continuing, there are so many different options other people look at. Whereas you're telling me that you're laser focused, you're like, no, there's one direction, there's one way forward, and I'm going to take it, I'm going to walk this path. That's what it sounds like. Have I understood it right?
Well, and I think what I said before too is I look at failure as kind of a prerequisite. Like if you're failing, you're failing forward, because even if you don't continue to go in this direction and the failure shows you, hey, actually it's there. Hey, like Omaha is a failure, but Omaha failed so that I could come to Boise. That relationship failed so that I could find Steven. So it's like, what is this redirecting me to? Is it a failure, or is it a repositioning and then a relaunch? And I think about failure as, look at how exercise works. You work your muscles to failure. For people that, do weightlifting, if you work your muscles to failure, you know what's going to happen. The muscles are going to regrow back stronger. And so if you can kind of just reposition that a failure, and I say that in quotations, like what if we just change the word from failure to just attempt or building block, and then instead of internalizing it as your own identity, that you are not a failure, you're just on your hero's journey. Like you think about any movie, any book, like the hero's journey is he gets the call to adventure. He at first is reluctant. I don't know if I want to do this. Like look at us in business or relationships. You get the call to adventure. I don't know if I want to start a business. Maybe it's safer to stay here in my let's say Lord of the Rings. Okay, he gets the call to adventure. Go to Mordor. You gotta defeat the ring. He's like, no, that's okay. The Shire is much more comfortable. And then eventually has that guide, that mentor, Frodo and Gandalf. Gandalf is the mentor saying, hey, come this way. This is what you're meant to do. And then eventually Frodo's like, all right, fine. Then they cross the threshold. He leaves the Shire into an unknown world. And did he just get to Mordor with the ring easily? No. He found giants and ogres and fell into pits and, almost got set on fire, and then had to battle his own inner demons and outside of, including the external ones. And so I just kind of look at it like it's not a matter of if the goal will happen. It's a matter of if you will keep at it until it does. And I certainly have moments, and especially I had at the beginning of this year, it was like I had a huge stint of scarcity and fear and should I quit? Is this the right direction? Am I doing the wrong things? And I kind of played out in my mind, well, what would it look like if I quit? What would it look like if I continued? Both are kind of painful. Which one do you want to choose? That's actually a statement that I think about a lot. It's not a matter of if it will happen. It's a matter of if you will keep at it until it does. I think anything that you want in your life, and that might be bold to say, and I feel like a past part of myself would be skeptical of that. And but I just have so much evidence of it already. Like if you ever need proof, look at the things that you've already done and accomplished in your life. And the fact that even being alive on this earth at this time is a statistical anomaly. It's incredible that we are here.
What's next for Marley Jaxx?
Well, we're doing some really exciting things in the business we have a membership site where we get to be people's chief content officer. We give them their templates, their scripts, their content strategy every month. And that's been when I created that, it was it came from my soul. And it's funny because I fought a mentor on it that he's like, don't do a low ticket continuity. It's, you won't be as profitable that way. And I was like, it's my gut against yours. This is something that I just feel from my core that I need to make. And it has been so much fun. I love this offer. And then we've also been talking to big like enterprise level companies about licensing it to their companies. So like real estate agents or network marketing, who of course, if real estate and network marketers were, had the better strategies for social media, the whole company would grow. So going to them at a kind of an enterprise level is something really exciting. And then I still want to make movies, and I make my content on my YouTube channel, and spent some time in LA talking to directors and producers, and might produce my own work. I think that that's a different way that I want to enter the Hollywood dream, is instead of necessarily, doing auditions, which of course I still will, but I can produce my own work. Look what I've done with my YouTube channel. I know how to create content, and now it's kind of just a new game to learn, how do I make a movie?
Sounds exciting. Where can people find you?
Yeah, come check me out on YouTube, youtube.com/Marley Jaxx, Instagram.com/Marley Jaxx. And I respond to all my DMs personally. You'll never get an assistant or a bot, so you can reach out to me there. And then you can also check out chiefcontentofficer.co to learn how we help people with their content.
Amazing.
That's it for today's episode of The Creative Flight. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, I invite you to leave a review. It really helps more creators find the show. For more insights and behind the scenes content, you can follow me on Instagram or LinkedIn. You can also check out my resources on ivymalik.com. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Until then, keep creating, keep pushing those boundaries, and keep taking flight.